Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a new video. So I get a lot of questions about, hey, should I buy this? Should I buy that? And one of the questions that stuck out to me the most was actually somebody recently, they were asking me if they should buy a limited or a base STI. I'm just going to go over the pros and cons that I weighed myself when I was looking at buying mine. The bases and the limiteds are a little bit different now, just in terms of the options and things that you do get with the car. For me, my situation was a little bit different. I go into buying a car probably a little bit different than most people. And what I mean by that is I go in it knowing what I'm going to upgrade, knowing what I'm going to modify. So if there's an option on the car that is more expensive from the factory that I know I'm going to eventually change, I usually try to find a trim level that doesn't include that. So mine's a 2017, so it's a little bit different, as I said, than it is right now. But when I was buying mine, some of the things that stood out that were different were the wheels. The limited, you got the BBS wheels as opposed to the base STI wheels, which are Enkis. Also the leather, and you got a sunroof. Other things that were included with the limited was the push to start or the keyless entry. You got the Harman Kardon stereo system, and a few other things here and there, but those are the main differences between a limited and a base STI. I actually preferred the base STI wheels over the limiteds. Some people like the limiteds more. I just wasn't a fan of them. I don't know why. I don't know. I think it was the color. I just usually gravitate towards darker colored wheels, as you can tell what I have in the car now. So I just happen to like them better. Kind of drew my attention more to a base STI. I don't know why in 2018 they didn't differentiate, the limiteds and the bases with the wheels. That was like one of the biggest differences, and one of the perks for a lot of people between the two. Really don't know why they, changed that up, and they didn't dedicate a different set of wheels for the limiteds. Another thing that I didn't want on the car was a sunroof. Now, yes, it is a nice thing to have. But most of my cars, I either never had it, or if I did have it, I never used it. And also another thing to factor in is its added weight. It's actually in the worst place to add weight on a car, on top. I didn't really care for it. I knew I wasn't going to use it. I didn't want to pay extra for it, so I'd rather have this slick top. And I just preferred the look of that. It just looks much cleaner to me in my eyes. Another thing that I didn't care for was the actual leather that they use in the car. They use a little bit nicer leather in a more premium car like the Ascent or an Outback or something. I believe so. But at the time, the leather, I keep on saying leather, but the fake, whatever it is that they use, was horrible. I absolutely cannot stand the leather that they use in the STI. It's super cheap feeling. It gets really shiny and gross and oily really quickly. It does not wear over time well. I always prefer the base STI seats. Having the Alcantara or suede or whatever they use in the centers, it actually helps hold you in the seat much better. Cloth-like material actually, grip way better than leather. Leather, you'll be sliding around. It just makes it that much harder to drive and harder to get comfortable, at least in my eyes. So it was no question. I just wanted the base STI 100% because of the seats. I've actually upgraded to the Recaro seats, which do have the leather on the sides, but the center is actually cloth, and that was a big thing for me. The leather in the STI just didn't do it for me. I'm not a fan of it. I still am not a fan of it. And now that I see a WRX or STI with the leather, now that it has 30, 40, 50,000 miles on the car, it did not hold up well, and I'm glad I didn't go with it. Now, the other options like the Harman Kardon, or, the stereo system, or the push to start or keyless entry, those things I kind of wanted. Those were the only options that I was kind of leaning towards a limited for. When I was purchasing mine, it was actually a little different. There was actually an option to actually load up a base, basically get all the tech, like the Harman Kardon system. You can get the keyless entry, the push to start, and all that stuff. You were able to get that in a base. It was an option that you can add on. And I believe it was around 4,000 or 5,000 more or extra from a base STI, and then you bumped up to a limited. The only one that they had on a lot with that option was a red. I believe it was lightning red. I don't know when they changed to pure red, but it was a red STI, and it had that option. I think it was around like 39. I do really love a clean modded red STI, but I really wanted lapis blue. There wasn't any options or any ones on the dealer lots around me, at least, that had that, so I ended up going with the base. But in the back of my mind, I knew I was going to upgrade the stereo, something a little bit more custom, I guess. I ended up going with the iDoing head unit as well as the full kicker speaker upgrade. And I believe I paid about 800 bucks or so for the entire thing, you know, the speakers, the head unit, all that. And it's awesome. Paying for that Harman Kardon, if I got that option on the car, it would just been a part of my monthly payment. And I ended up changing it anyway. So basically everything that bothered me in a limited STI, I changed. And I knew that going into it. So plain and simple, you know, should you get a base STI or a limited STI? That really is up to you. You know, like I said, for me, I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew what I was going to upgrade. I knew what I wanted to change. So getting a lower trim level STI was something that I wanted and I preferred. Now that I have the car sitting where I want and I've upgraded all those things that I guess bothered me, I wouldn't have any other way. If I ended up getting a limited and I did everything that I did to this one, the only thing that would be showing that it is a limited trim level is, I guess, the sunroof. You know, I did change the seats and everything. So you know, all that extra money I would have been paying per month wasn't worth it to me. Also, something else to consider that a lot of people don't really think about, you know, when they're getting a new car, they just want the new car. They don't really think about resale. STIs in general, they hold value very, very well. You know, they're always in demand. People want them. They're always worth a little bit more, you know, granted it's in good condition and you maintain it and everything. So they do hold value extremely well. A perfect example is my WRX. I bought that for, I think, $26,000, and I ended up selling it for $26,000. And that was 2 years later and about 25,000 miles or so. So I ended up selling it for what I bought it for. Now, that was a base WRX. I had a few options on it, but it wasn't I believe they had a premium and a limited trim as well at that time. But, you know, it was a lower trim level. And I got my money's worth. I got my money back, basically. Granted, I put a lot into it with modifications and everything. I basically made my money back. I drove that car for free, technically. And, you know, it was just a perfect example of how Subarus hold their value. Now, when you come to sell an STI or something with a higher trim level, people really don't tend to gravitate towards those, at least what I have found. What I have found is people, they don't necessarily look for the cheapest option, but they don't really care for, you know, all the fancy stuff. They just want to get the car, because usually when people are stepping up into a car like this, they just want to get it for the driving experience. They don't really care about, you know, keyless entry. They don't really care about the sunroof or the leather. You know, they just want to get in the car and be able to own something like this. So they really don't, you know, search for the higher trim levels. And they usually don't do as well in the resale market. Every single one that you see on the internet right now for sale is pretty much bases, you know, base STIs. Or even WRX as well. There's not that many limiteds. You know, you'll see them, but there's just not as many. The base and the premium levels, they're way more popular. They sell better, and that's what people want. That is my opinion and kind of my thought process when I was buying my 2017 STI. I hope this helps you out and kind of clarifies some things. Yes, I know it has changed in 2018 plus with the options and everything. I may be mistaken, but I think base and limited STIs come with keyless entry. No matter what, and I think they all come with a button for the trunk to open. Mine doesn't have it. I have to do it with the button in here or on the key fob, which is so dumb. I don't know why they didn't put a button on the back, as if that is really an option. You know, well, whatever. I'm over it. I've been driving it for 4 years and I hardly go in the trunk, so it's not that big of a deal, but still, I thought that was a little silly. Either way, I hope this helped you out. I hope it clarified a few things. I hope you were able to kind of, you know, solidify your decision if you should go for the limited or if you should go to the base. You know, you see my car and everybody's like, wow, that looks great, and look at what you've done. And then they find out it's a base STI and it's, you know, the cheapest option. It puts things in their perspective and makes people realize, you know, wow, I really don't have to spend that much money to get my car looking, you know, maybe like this or something else. So yeah, guys, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them below. But in the meantime, keep it clean, keep it simple. I'll catch you in the next one.